When you think about Sudan, what comes to mind? My name is Flo and I am cycling across Africa, 13,000 kilometers from Cairo to Cape Town. And after 6 action-packed weeks in Egypt, pedaling along the Nile Valley and exploring the hidden gems of this country, my friend Rob and I said goodbye to our friends who joined us for the Egyptian leg of the journey, and now we are crossing into the second country of the trip, Sudan. Now, I have to admit, I feel very unprepared. Sudan is vast. It used to be the largest country in Africa before South Sudan split in 2011, and I know pretty much nothing about it.
Sudan, I have no expectations whatsoever. What I picture when I picture Sudan is desert. And that's it.
Honestly, I didn't do much research or planning for this trip, apart from the obvious essentials, like visas.
This is the Sudan embassy. We've come bright and early to apply for our visas for Sudan.
So all I know is that I'm going to be crossing the Sahara, and that absolutely terrifies me. As we cross the Egypt-Sudan border, little did I know that exactly 2 months later, a war would break out here.
Explosions in Sudan's capital, Khartoum.
Shelling and gunfire. And it is the most vulnerable who are paying the price.
The human cost has been enormous.
Half of the hospitals in the capital are out of action.
But at this point in time, we had no clue.
Final pedal strokes in Egypt. This is crazy. We're at the border.
Crossing into Sudan right now.
Crazy.
Let's do this.
And nothing could have prepared me for what was awaiting us on the other side of that border. Welcome back to Project Africa.
It is immediately such a drastic change in landscape. It's actually crazy, like you can physically feel the difference. When you go by car or by plane, there's no way you can feel the difference, but now I feel like I've entered into a new country, you know? I've never felt this before. I've never crossed the border by bike. It's my first time.
The first thing that strikes me is the wind. I never knew what the word tailwind meant until today. Here there is a mighty wind blowing from the north, and since we're cycling south, it pushes us forward, and cycling is so fun.
I'm flying, riding it, 35 kilometers per hour.
After crossing Egypt, Sudan is a real breath of fresh air. We went from a country with over 100 million inhabitants to one with, well, a lot less, especially this far up north. Here, there's nothing. There's no one. No cars, no honks, no people, no police, no restrictions. We can do as we please. Stop whenever we want. I feel free.
There's not a single soul in sight. Miles and miles. This is what freedom feels like. Wow.
And then I start seeing things in the distance. At first, I think it's a snake, maybe a crocodile, but no, they're loose parts of truck tires. I don't think those creatures would survive here anyway, because I'm quickly reminded of where I am. A few kilometers in, I see the first cow. I'm guessing it was being transported to Egypt and left to rot on the side of the road when it died of dehydration. As we cycle onwards, I'm starting to realize how harsh the conditions are here. Death is omnipresent, and over the next weeks, we'll be reminded of this often. This is it. We are about to cross the Sahara. But before entering the desert, we go to Wadi Halfa, the town closest to the border and the last one we'll be seeing in a while. Perhaps some of the last people we'll be seeing in a while too.
We're in the middle of the desert, and still there's kids playing football. This is amazing. Football is really everywhere.
We arrive just before sunset and meet up with our new friend, Tim. Meet our new companion on the trip. This is French Tim. He's also cycling across Africa, but he's doing a project called Dream Team to raise funds for charity. And he's actually already cycled 3,000 kilometers from France. We're in Sudan at the same time, so we decided to cycle to the capital together. Then he will continue his journey to South Africa alone. Today we head into the desert. Over the next few weeks we'll be crossing the Nubian desert, which is the eastern part of the Sahara. It spans approximately 400,000 square kilometers, and it stretches from southern Egypt to around Karima all the way to the Red Sea. Looking at a map, it's intimidating, not gonna lie. I mean, there is nothing, and I don't know how long we'll go before finding food or water. I've never done something like this, so we try to prepare as much as we can.
Day 2 in Sudan. We just spent the whole morning doing paperwork and just getting stuff ready for us to be able to actually cycle in this country, like police station here, getting our paperwork done, getting SIM cards.
But first, we need money, and that's a bit complicated here. You see, in Sudan, you can't just pay for things by card, and ATMs don't accept foreign cards, so you have to bring enough cash into the country to get by during your stay. So we change our US dollars and remaining Egyptian currency into Sudanese pounds on the black market. This means that for each US dollar, we get over 600 pounds instead of the 580 we would get at a bank. Because of the international sanctions and the inflation present in the country, many Sudanese want to get their hands on US dollars and are willing to pay a bit more than banks. And that's why there is an official and a black market rate.
This is what it's like exchanging money on the black market in Sudan. A lot of bills, a lot of people watching.
Look at that.
And then there's no contract, it's just a handshake. That's how business is done here.
With our new cash, we acquire some groceries, fuel, and most importantly, water. I have no idea what the water situation is in the desert, but my guess is that there's not gonna be much.
This is how we prepare for the desert. We carry huge bags of water. This is 6 liters.
Once we're ready, Tim, Rob, and I cycle into the desert. It is hot, sunny, sandy, and windy, but we are thrilled to be here. Thanks to the north wind, we are able to cover long distances in the first few days. Every now and then, we see more carcasses on the side of the road, more dead cows that were left behind to rot. It's an eerie and surreal atmosphere out here.
It smells so bad. I don't know why, but there were 10 disintegrating cows on the side of the road.
Just a few days ago, I was nervous about coming to Sudan, but there's something oddly comforting about being out here all alone. We cycle all day, and when the sun sets, we stop, take shelter behind a dune, and sleep in our tents. And the next day, we just wake up and continue riding south. The long distances allow me to be silent for hours. They allow me to think. It's like I'm entering a flow state and forget that I'm cycling. I'm fully present, but meditative at the same time, and I'm loving it. But then, as we keep going, we start to notice signs of life, hints of people. Perhaps we're not as alone as I thought. We come across a makeshift settlement, scraps of cardboard and pieces of tin secured onto old wooden pallets. I'm guessing it's there for truckers who need a break as they drive across the desert, but we're the only ones here now. A lady invites us in. She says she can prepare us some lunch and tea. After spending the morning in the sun, it feels relieving to find shade.
A little shaded area. We're gonna have some tea and just rest because it's like 1 p.m. right now. Super sunny, super hot. So it's nice to have like a little bit of rest. Got some food, some bread, some onions, and a lot of shade. This is luxury.
Turns out we're not actually alone. Apart from that lady, another man lives in the settlement with perhaps his wife? I don't understand. This place is so isolated, far from anything. Why would anyone live here? Then, something strange happens. We start cycling past people in the desert, just walking aimlessly, like lost souls. I am so confused. One of them asks me for a cigarette, and what I first thought was a weapon seems to be a metal detector.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم.
شو اسمك انت؟
وردي.
وردي. شرفنا.
شرف.
شو عم تعمل هلا؟
جهاز ذهب.
ذهب. وكيف بتعرف انها هنا؟
هنا.
What? There's gold in Sudan? I didn't expect to see anyone here in the desert, let alone people searching for gold. And as we keep riding, we see more and more of them. We spot a group that waves at us, so we get off the bikes and walk over to see what they're up to.
What is this? It's very, very, very deep. Like he just dropped a stone and it went so far down. It's
Wow, this is the hole right here. So apparently this is a very new gold mine. 3 شهور. They started digging 3 months ago.
أنا اسمي فلو. فلو أيوة.
My name is عبد السلام.
عبد السلام شرف.
Why bro?
أنا من فرنسا. أيوة.
يا برو السودان.
السودان.
ذهب.
ذهب؟ في كتير ولا لا؟
Small.
شوي. عندك that I can see؟ شو هيدا؟
ذهب.
ذهب؟
So apparently there's gold in Sudan, and a lot of it. Over the next few days, we see more of these miners searching and digging for gold in the desert. They spend months out here, living together in small groups, hoping to make a bit more money. Young boys, too. They live in tents or makeshift shelters and use basic tools to find bits of gold deep in the sand. It's very harsh and dangerous working conditions. But further south, we discover that there's entire companies extracting gold, with excavators and fenced-off sites. The more I read about it, the crazier it gets. Sudan is the third largest producer of gold in Africa, the 10th in the world, according to one source, in the top 20, according to another. I mean, it's probably hard to tell for sure how much is produced because it's all out here in the middle of nowhere, most of it probably illegal. But some reports even say that every year Russia could be stealing over $13 billion worth of gold from Sudan, smuggling it to Dubai, then to their country to fund the war in Ukraine.
And Russia has been illegally exploiting and smuggling this resource for years.
Wagner hiding in plain sight to avoid US sanctions and keep the financial pipeline flowing back to Moscow and its war on Ukraine.
But right now, we know nothing about all this. There's not even service out here. All we know is that these guys are friendly and hardworking. They're as curious about us as we are about them.
وعندك معي أكل اوكي نيم وين في خيمة أنا عندي خيمة كمان بالعجلة.
These miners have nothing to hide and little to give, yet they do so with pleasure.
هيدي الشاي من وين الشاي؟ من خرطوم.
They're very hospitable, it's amazing.
Salam.
مع السلامة.
So we get back on the road, and once again, we are all alone. But now, a new invisible enemy comes to greet us. The wind. Next week, it will get 10 times worse, but I don't know this yet. For now, it's pretty challenging, and I'm learning to understand it.
Who would have thought that I'd be cold in Sudan, in the desert? Well, actually, it's really cold because of the wind. It's very strong. It comes from the north. When it's a tailwind and the road that you're riding on is facing south, then it's amazing because you're just flying. But when you're going east, like we are right now, the wind is just super strong. It's on the side.
At sunset, we find another settlement where they serve food and set up our tents in silence. Today was a really long and eventful day. I'm exhausted, but happy.
Après une bonne journée, combien de kilomètres de vélo, Flo?
124.
C'est sa plus longue journée de vélo ever. Incroyable.
This is what we get. Food and eggs. And obviously the khubz, classic, eating with the hands, best thing ever.
The next day, my expectations of Sudan are completely shattered once again. If you look at a map, most of the country is desert. But if you look closely, if you zoom in, you'll notice that there is a thin strip of green crossing the desert. That's the Nile. And the green patches are fields that inhabitants have cultivated over centuries, even millennia. Up until now, we've been cycling on the highway, the only road there is. And if you put aside the gold miners that we discovered yesterday, the reality about Sudan was as I expected, just desert. But now, as we get closer to the Nile, we start seeing houses and greenery. This is amazing. Our eyes are not used to seeing green, so we decide to take a right turn and check it out.
هيدي فول. Hello. شكرا. واو. هونيك في كتير شمس. بس هون كتير مية. بالنيل. هلو. السلام عليكم. أعطيني فوتبول.
Where there's water, there is life. And where there's life, there's obviously kids playing with the ball or anything else that's available.
Look at that. The mud bricks drying to build all these houses. It's the color of the dirt and the sand, which means that you can't see it from afar. It's so interesting. It's the same color as the desert. When you get closer, you can see that there's houses, and this is what they're made of.
In this part of Sudan, I learned that women build the houses, and one man can have up to 4 wives.
كم بنت؟ بنت 4.
And while men provide their families with food by working in the fields, women will venture kilometers away from their village to dig for clay to make the bricks, and then use them to build houses when they're dry. How amazing! Actually, historically, women also played important roles in society here, long before Sudan was known as Sudan. Back in the kingdoms of Kush and Nubia, there were a number of strong queens, the most famous of whom was Queen Amanirenas of Nubia, known for her excellent archery skills and for stopping the Romans from taking over Nubia, thereby halting Rome's southward expansion in Africa. And after that, this land was home to many kingdoms and eras. After the kingdoms of Kush and Nubia came the Arabs, then the Ottomans, then there was the Egyptian era, the Ali dynasty, the British era. Sudan's history is complex. That's why it's an interesting mix between the Arab world and Africa. Today, there is over 500 ethnic groups in the country, which makes it culturally very rich.
You know Indian language?
2 Indian languages.
You are thick, eh?
ठीक हो और आप कैसे हिंदी बोलते हो?
Oh, बहुत.
I would have never thought that I would meet someone in Sudan who speaks Hindi. That is crazy.
Time for lunch. We're having eggs and fool again, which we now know fool is made from fava beans. But this time we also have fried fish from the Nile, a fresh tomato salad, and fresh lemons. And I thought I'd be surviving on canned food, pasta, and dates out here. This feels like luxury.
What a beautiful spot for lunch. This is totally unexpected. In a little village in the middle of the desert in Sudan. One tree that gives us so much shade and a lot of really kind people that gave us food. Let's go! Back on the road. Bye-bye! Ma salama! Now that we had lunch, we're gonna go and get some food for the road. Assalamu alaikum! Hello! There you go, we made it to the market. Hello!
Oh my, nothing could have prepared me for what I'm about to see. This market is incredible. They have everything here, fresh fruits and vegetables of all colors, and friendly vendors. Unfortunately, we don't have much space on the bikes, so we grab just a few essentials, including some of these.
Grapefruits. من وين هيدي؟ من وين؟ من Sudan.
These grapefruits are from Kassala in eastern Sudan and are massive and really delicious.
Pamplemousse time!
I feel very strong now.
And then we discover something else about Sudan. Something more surprising than seeing greenery in the desert. More surprising than finding fresh fruits and vegetables. More surprising even than meeting gold diggers in the Sahara. We discover that in Sudan, a country that is 97% Muslim, you can in fact find alcohol.
Apparently, Rob tells us that there's a Sudanese liquor in secret, obviously because drinking is haram in Islam, but a lot of them drink this specific liquor. I'm so intrigued to try it. We've been trying to find it and no one is able to give us a clear answer because they're all just trying to hide the fact that they drink. It's so funny.
Araki is a very taboo topic here, but
they all seem to know.
But everybody knows, everybody drinks, but they kind of keep it a secret.
It is a secret.
It's like weird, you know?
Yeah.
You need alcohol?
Yes. You have?
You drink?
Yes.
And you?
Sometimes.
I know, this way. You can find some village.
Where is it? Is it far from here?
We'll go with this guy.
With this guy?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
But I'm not drinking.
No, you don't drink.
Right. So we found a guy who's bringing us to the next village to make us taste some araki.
We arrive at one of those mud brick houses in the next village, and Rob and Tim go in first as I park my bike.
What is this?
It's for you, Florence.
Whoa, c'est transparent.
C'est la liqueur.
Whoa.
C'est comment?
Ah, c'est intéressant. Ah, c'est un goût de Christmas pudding en fait.
It tastes like vodka or tequila. C'est comme la tequila, hein? Ouais, c'est fort. C'est fort, ouais.
One of the ladies shows me a date.
Voilà. Ah.
That's what this translucent liquor is made from. And even more surprising, she tells me that she made it herself. She motions me to follow her inside. There's another lady here, I'm guessing one of her co-wives, and they have a whole jug full of this forbidden drink. But what catches my eye is the patterned scars on her face. Scarification is an ancient tradition. It's a sign of beauty for many indigenous Africans. I find it fascinating, and she's showing me hers with a lot of pride.
Shukran. Ma salama. Ma salama. This is just insane. It's only day 4 in Sudan.
Back on the highway, we keep cycling south, covering more and more distance as the day goes on. Wow, Sudan is far from anything I could have ever imagined. There's so much here that I had no idea about. The Nile, for one. Before, when I thought of the Nile, I used to picture ancient Egypt, the lush Nile Valley. Basically exactly what we saw when we cycled across Egypt. But I never knew that this also existed here in Sudan, but I guess it makes sense. The blue and white Nile come from Lake Tana and Lake Victoria, and they flow thousands of kilometers before confluing in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. From there, the Nile continues to flow past Aswan and the other cities we visited just a few weeks ago, all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Thanks to this river, there's actually lots of life here in Nubia, and it's breathtaking. I'm starting to really love this place. As the day comes to an end, we arrive in a village and ask the local kids where we could pitch our tents. They point us to an abandoned house. It's a traditional Nubian house with an inner court surrounded by palm trees. It's perfect. We pitch our tents as it gets dark, then light our stove and prepare some dinner all together.
Oh, wow. Rice, tomatoes, falafel, onions, tuna. Yummy!
This is a little concoction, comme on dit.
Concoction.
The next morning, we pack up, wash our dishes, and start riding as soon as the sun is up. From this small house on the banks of the Nile, we cycle 103 kilometers south. We cycle all day long with little breaks, and are once again completely alone. Except around 4 p.m, when we see a little village in the desert and make a stop.
Doing a little pit stop after a long day of riding in the desert. It was really tough with the wind today. Just gonna have a bit of lunch here and charge our stuff. Fully charged.
Fully charged. People are so kind and hospitable. I love it here.
We enjoy a nice lunch in the shade, and to thank the owner, Rob offers him some of the haraki we got yesterday, and he accepts.
Television. She said, film me because one day I'll be on TV, and now
Sudan.
in Sudan. She's so adorable.
يلا
شكرا.
شوف عفوا لزيارتكم معنا في مدينة دلجو المحس.
شكرا.
نتمنى من السياحة تكون أكثر يعني والبلد متطورة والبلد أحلى إن شاء الله وربنا زي ما بقولوا يوفقكم في طريقكم يا رب العالمين.
We leave them and head back to the desert. There aren't many people living out here, and yet every single Nubian we have met so far has been friendly, curious, and hospitable.
All person came from one father and one mother. You know that? Allah. No.
Adam.
Oh, she right. She right. All of us are same as. كلنا نفس الشيء.
We've only been in Sudan for 5 days, and already all my expectations of the country have been shattered. I thought it was just a big, empty desert. In reality, it has a lot more to offer than sand and sun, and above everything, I feel free here and truly welcome. I know that more challenging days are waiting for us, but I feel ready for this Sahara crossing, and I'm not scared anymore.
This is one of the most beautiful sunsets I've seen on this trip so far, honestly. Desert all around. There's not a single person. We got a tailwind, and we're gonna camp and start tonight. So I'm super happy.
I can't wait to see more of it and to learn more about the people who live in the desert. And until then, we'll just keep cycling south.
Sudan is very nice country. Very nice country.